Hi and welcome to Java programming. Today let's look at how to thoroughly test API using Charles Proxy. So setting up Charles Proxy, and it handles the API traffic. It's between your internet and the it's a proxy. So you need to configure the proxy server. It's basically for security reasons. So HTTPS protocol is used, and we have to go to the Charles menu and enable SSL proxying in it, and that is basically a certificate which you should say I trust Charles for this domain because that domain is used by you. And we can test mobile devices using this proxying and Wi-Fi. So basically I have Postman testing also, where I can pass the RESTful services, I can test them, and I observe in Charles. I go and see whether these get put, post and the delete, all this are passed correctly. Basically the JSON, XML data formats, is it going correctly? And when I check that, I validate the API responses. I basically check that is that showing status code correctly, or the fields shown correctly, is the update happening properly. All this are to be verified by the tester. So that's basically done in the Charles Proxy testing, basically the API testing. We also check for all the status code. If it's 200 series, it is successful, whereas 400 series would mean that it is a client side error, whereas 500 series would mean server side error. So responses, body, structure, and we need to check for error messages. Are they shown properly? Response times and caching, headers and pagination, metadata, all that. And what I test is basically for validating the requests and whether it handles any valid input, and how about the payload, is it getting handled properly? The empty spaces, the nulls, values and payload information we need to check. We also need to use breakpoints to manipulate the traffic. Basically go over and see, set a breakpoint and then see, modify the request, payload information and validate it, and see what are the status code that is getting returned, what are the problems that we face. It could be authentication problem or something. So then if there is a server side error, it could give 500 series of errors and inject any invalid JSON to the test client side, or error handling, slow down responses to test timeout behaviors. So this is basically the things they look for in a STAT interview process, and you have to rewrite the tool for automation and manipulation. Change API from version 1 to version 2, and then for specific error codes. Also local map and map remote for mocking APIs. So sometimes some API has to be mocked and then tested. So we need to test staging versus production and test new backend endpoints as well. We also use something called throttling, where basically the bandwidth is tested. If you set it to lower internet speeds, low latency, how does it perform? And when there is high latency, how does it perform? When there's a packet loss, what happens? All this we need to test. And how I test the app behavior and poor network connection, retry the logging in, timeout validations and loading indicators, the response times. validate the security aspects as well. Using Charles, I check sensitive data responses, and any sensitive data getting exposed, we need to find token expiration behavior, and also API calls are encrypted, whether tokens are refreshed correctly, and export sessions for documentation. I export Charles sessions to share with developers, attach a bug report, and also compare API behavior across the builds. This is your interview ready answer, that I use Charles Proxy to thoroughly test APIs by capturing and decrypting the HTTP traffic. Then I inspect request responses, payloads, and validate all the header information, status codes, and all the responses as well, and see if it is getting modified as per the API contract. Is it all getting done correctly? Those things we need to check and see the Charles proxy is working correctly. And if there is any bugs, how do we detect it? If we basically check if, like for example, a pass request is passed for some JSON can be incorrectly passed, some parameters may be malformed URLs or JSONs, those kind of things, and still it would be giving you a 200 series and say it's done, it's updated. But when you go check in the backend, remove the data and see it is not getting updated at all in the backend. So it's simply showing it's done, but it's false because in the backend it is not updating properly. So that means the payload somewhere is not getting updated properly. It's just ignoring and saying patch request is done. So those scenarios we have to raise bugs, we have to attach the files, Charles sessions files, and say that this is actually not going and updating the information. It's simply giving a 200 series and ignoring the request. So those things we have to do, and we have to watch out for any bugs. That's pretty much about it, how you do Charles proxy testing. And thank you, and see you in the next session.